Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scribo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. We're going to look at the astrology of the upcoming week, starting with May 15th. Today is the 15th. It's a Sunday, so it's Sunday to Saturday, May 15th to May 21st. And there's a lot of stuff going on this week. There was a lot of stuff going on last week. Of course, we all are sort of waiting with bated breath for this grand eclipse that everyone keeps talking about, but it is certainly to be intense. However, before we get there, there's a couple of things happening today that are worth mentioning. So let's go to the, let me share my screen with you. Okay, here we go. Here we are. And we're going to start. Is this where we're starting? Right here. Right here. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so we have moved into the third week of May. As I said, May 15th to May 21st. And we're going to start with looking at what's going on today, the 15th. And we have a conjunction of Venus and Chiron at 15 degrees of Aries, and we can see that over here. Here is Venus, here is Chiron in Aries. Venus has been going through quite a transformational process since the end of last year, actually, when Venus moved into Capricorn. I believe that happened in December. It then went retrograde in Capricorn, and then direct, and while it was retrograde in Capricorn, it made 3 conjunctions to Pluto. It made a conjunction to Saturn on its way out. It also made 2 conjunctions to Mars. So Venus coming up against Pluto, coming up against Saturn, coming up against Mars. Did I say Pluto? I meant Venus. Venus coming up, I might have said it, so I'll say it again, just in case you'll hear it twice if I said it already. Venus coming up against Pluto, the lord of the underworld, Saturn, the lord of karma, and then Mars, the god of war. Venus has really been, had a very difficult journey in 2022. However, that journey, I think, has strengthened her. And of course, when she was in Pisces, the sign of her exaltation, it was like she got like R&R, and while she was there, she conjoined Neptune and Jupiter, both in Pisces. So it was after a really long and arduous journey, she had a little downtime in the great cosmic sea of Pisces. She came onto the scene into Aries, manifesting herself into Aries. And on that day I believe it was the same day that the Alito memo was leaked. So she was ready to take on her rights to herself, Venus, the feminine, okay? So the next thing she was going to do was meet up with Chiron, and that's what she's doing today. And Chiron in Aries is an interesting energy. Chiron, of course, is the wound. Aries is our identity, so it's wounds around identity. Aries is a sign associated with masculinity. And so it's the wounded masculine. The wounded masculine in this guise of aggressor and raper, invader. And we certainly saw that with what's going on in the Ukraine with Putin, but we see it happening in our country. We just had another mass casualty, a mass casualty event. Some young kid from Pennsylvania went to Buffalo, New York, and shot up people because they were Black. And he was radicalized online and all this other stuff, right? So it's this part of that wound is the wound of isolation, right? And so we have been, and then of course, wounding around firearms. And of course, America has its, I don't know, #1 place in the world, perhaps, maybe even might be more dangerous here than it is in Yemen. maybe we're third, right? So there's a lot of wounding around our rights to live and kill, really, right? So we have Venus coming here. Venus, having gone through her own underworld experience, now comes and meets up with Chiron and says, let's, what is the key to the healing here? Well, let's look at the symbol at 15 degrees of Aries, because I think it says a lot. Here we have an Indian weaving a ceremonial blanket, projecting into everyday life the realization of wholeness and fulfillment. Wholeness and fulfillment. And let me see if I can read what else it says about this, because I didn't look beyond this. Let me see if I can find it here. We are told that fulfillment of desire is a possibility at whatever level and however incomplete a manner it may be experienced. So fulfillment of desire is a possibility. And so it says here, in Christian tradition, one hears of Jesus' seamless robe. In Asia, one is told of a spiritual vestiture of the perfect oneness. The man who has attained a spiritual state is figuratively robed in the universe, and more precisely in the Milky Way, the great white robe of interwoven stars. This is the ultimate kind of weaving. There is also Penelope's weaving and unweaving, waiting for the return of her polarizing mate. The mind of the American women in which these symbols took concrete form could think only of Indian weavers. For the white man who is hungering for symbols of states of living in total harmony with the universe, the traditional Indian can be glamorized as the answer to the inner emptiness of the city dweller, surfeited with artificial values. At any rate, we must prefigure a future state of fulfillment is conscious harmony and unpossessive love. And so really what he's talking about, which I'm not sure I was very clear reading that because he's not always that easy to read, is that we have to picture the wholeness. We have to weave the threads of our lives, or the blankets or the clothing that we wear, and that clothing is our deeds and our tasks and what we stand for and what we do, with a vision of wholeness, a vision of fulfillment. It's interesting because this young man who did this murderous rampage in Buffalo was talking about, we will not be replaced, the replacement theory that blacks and immigrants are replacing the work of white people. There is no replacing. Everybody has their capacity to contribute to the weaving of the blanket of society. And if we look at ourselves, the I am, right, the Chiron and Aries, as a conduit of our own special qualities, Aries, our own uniqueness, Aries, we can contribute to the whole. So it's in expressing our uniqueness, not feeling isolated from everybody, that we can come to a feeling of wholeness. And I think that's kind of what this symbol is symbolizing, hence, right? We also have today, this Sunday, the 15th, the Sun square Saturn. Saturn, this is a first quarter crisis and action square. We feel the need to take an action, and yet it seems Herculean. So if we utilize the unfortunate and awful example of what happened in Buffalo, what actions can we take to prevent something like that happening? Well, certainly we could go right to where most people go when something like this happens, is the mental health of the person. Yeah, well, we can work on the mental health. We can we can deal with this sense of isolation and nihilism that these young people are feeling. And why wouldn't they feel? I'm not certainly not saying that this guy should have done this, but it's understandable how people, 18-year-olds, when, it's not just Trump. So I don't want to seem like it's just Trump, but, this kid was 14 when Donald Trump became president. And all of that stuff that went on with the Charlottesville and all of that stuff, all imprinted on this kid. And then we had, the 2 years of isolation from COVID. Is anybody really healthy? Is anybody really healthy? And then these children have to, there's the existential crisis of climate change, which they probably feel very powerless to do something about, because the people who are supposed to be doing something about it aren't, right? So we get up, we say, let's change it, let's do something. We march in the streets and nothing happens. What else can we look at here? Well, we can look at the gun laws. Certainly there's a lot of mentally ill people out there, but not everybody's shooting everybody else, because not everybody has access to guns, and not just guns, but these semi-automatic weapons, which is ridiculous. So all these are actions, right, that can be taken, and yet it all seems so big and so large, but action does need to be taken. Now, this is part of the synodic cycle that began with the Sun and Saturn making a conjunction. That actually occurred on February 4th of 2022, 4/4, right? At 16 degrees of Aquarius, and it says a big businessman at his desk, the ability to organize the many aspects of an enterprise involving a large group of human beings. And so this is about taking actions to direct what we want to see happen. It's like being your own CEO. You're the CEO of your life. Everybody manifests, their life within the realms of what is considered legal, right? In society. I mean, there's certain things you can't do, like this kid can't do that. So, and yet we need the organization. We need a sense. One of the things that an organization or a business, they have a goal, right? If you are making widgets, your goal is to make widgets for the least amount of money for the maximum profit, right? So that's your goal. So a business has a goal. So we need a goal. We need a goal, wholeness, weaving that cloth, right? Weaving that cloth into wholeness. We can do it, guys. We can do it. So now let's look at the thing that everybody's talking about. And this is the full moon lunar eclipse, blood moon at 26 degrees of Scorpio. And if we look over here, we can see the sun at 26, what is that, 27 degrees of Scorpio? Hold on one second. I actually can't see this because it's too small. One minute, guys. It's 26, right? Goodness gracious. Hold on one moment, guys. I can't believe I can't see this, but I can't. So, ooh. So yes, 26 degrees. I have to get new glasses. These, maybe if I clean them. So we have the moon at 26 degrees of Scorpio. We have the sun, of course, at 26 degrees of Taurus. Full moons are oppositions between the sun and the moon. They always bring awareness. And so in that respect, full moons are powerful. We see something is right in front of our face, and it's very emotional because the moon is full. The moon is as full as it's ever going to be, right? And so there is this sense of there's your feelings right out there. And this is Scorpio. And Scorpio, the moon in Scorpio, one second here. We're looking at the wrong thing here. Hold on, let me go back here. Here we go. The moon in Scorpio is conjunct the south node. That's the release point, right? That's so this is about feeling something, to see it, to understand it, let it go, right? And so it's a highly emotional time, okay? Not only, and so we're dealing with this energy of the full moon, and add on to it the energy of the nodes of the moon. And the nodes of the moon is in a way a vortex of energy that is, we're all sort of, going through the eye of the needle. And the eye of the needle in this case is these nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, right? So what do we need to let go of before we can move into a more stable future? North node in Taurus. The Saturn, right, just squared the sun the day before, right? Saturn is square the nodes. As Saturn squares the nodes, the resolution node is the south node in Scorpio. It's about going back to the past, the wounds of the past. So I wasn't surprised, honestly, that something came up that would indicate something about our past that we are either unwilling to look at or need to let go of. And I think white supremacy might just be, in this case anyway, might be the case. But there are many cases. That's one case in many, many cases. I mean, you watch the news, see what vibes for you and what doesn't vibe for you. Do we need to keep getting in these unending cycles of war? Why do we set it up in such a way that we always have to have this enemy? It's not just us, of course. It's not just one country that determines all of that. But these are questions that we need to ask ourselves. Now, this the Sabian symbol for the moon at 26 of Scorpio is American Indians making camp after moving into a new territory. The ability to adjust swiftly to a new situation by tuning into its requirements. So what is it that we need to tune into? What are the requirements? What has changed, and how and what do we need to do in order to work through and work with that change? This is opposing the sun at 26 degrees of Taurus. A Spanish gallant serenades his beloved, the ritualization of individual desires. And so there's this sort of push-pull between our own personal desires, which is in a way very Taurus. Taurus is really about mine, me, mine, mine, mine. When the little kid says mine, 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 or they say no, mine, that's all boundary. What's theirs, what's yours, what's not theirs, what's, that sense of what do you possess? What do you possess? And so that's very Taurus. And then of course Scorpio is how do we interact with other people? How do we Scorpio is a relational archetype. And it's really the hardest of the relational archetypes, if you ask me, because in Libra, the other relational archetype, it's a mind thing. It's like, this is a good idea, this is the other. It's very mental, right? Because it's air. But when you get into Scorpio, we're dealing with water. We're dealing with passions and desire. Scorpio is desire. And what's desire? Desire is what you think you don't have. So our desire here needs to be our desire to aspire to a better way of living together. In order to do that, there are things about the past that we must let go of. Now, the interesting thing about this is if we look at the Saros series, according to Bernadette Brady, this is 6 north. That's how she does it. I think it's 131 if you look it up on NASA, but don't quote me on that. Saros cycle 131. North means that the actual eclipse started at the North Pole. Eclipses start at one of the poles, and then they make it all the way down to the other side of the planet when they're closest to the equator. That's when we have these total solar eclipse, right? Total solar eclipses. But we have this Saros series 6 north, and this is what Bernadette Brady says about it. It says this family of eclipses is concerned with the individual's relationship to father figures, authority figures, or the need to take responsibility and control. This is the time to accept the commitments that are presented commitments which can occur due to another person's illness or unreliability. So this is about taking responsibility for yourself, but also for the communities that you live in and the kind of world that you live in. Who's the authority here? Who's the authority? Wednesday, the 18th, we have Mars conjoin Neptune at 25 degrees Pisces. Now, Mars and any other planet, as far as synodic cycles, is always a 2-year cycle. And so the last time these two planets were together were actually 2020. And it occurred at 21 degrees of Pisces. So now we're coming to a new synodic cycle between these two. Now, Neptune is very much a cosmic energy. It's the energy of the divine. It's mass consciousness. There's a lot of power in Neptune. It kind of acts like a giant wave, but there isn't a whole lot of control with Neptune, but there is direction. You can sort of direct things loosely. And Mars is about forward motion. And in a way, it's like the god of the unconscious or the divine nature in creation seeds Mars with a mission. And the mission for Mars, and it has no choice but to take it, is a religious organization succeeds in overcoming the corrupting influence of perverted practices and materialized ideals, the power of the soul to intervene in the personal life and to induce necessary catharsis. So we this is all about shadow, right? This is looking at the shadow. And if we look here, we can see that this conjunction, and let me find my, for some reason I can't find my, oh no, sorry. It's like I can't find my thing, my little cursor here. Here's the conjunction. We see that it's trine the south node and sextile the north node, right? So this is ease. This is ease. And so this can work in two ways. This can fuel people's craziness, right? Especially if they have unresolved or unconscious things that they're not aware that they need to let go of. But it can also, we also have the opportunity to utilize this energy to create a more stable future with a vision for a better tomorrow, with a vision where we can overcome the corrupting influences of things like greed, power hungry, and money, or whatever that is. You know, how many things do you need? How much do you need? How is it that you need all these things and there are people that don't have anything? Is that right? Is that fair? We're all God's children, right? So these are all questions that sort of come up with this. Thursday, May 19th, which happens to be my anniversary to my husband. Let's see, it'll be our 21st anniversary. Yes, 21st. I had to think about that. May 19th, we have the Sun trine Pluto, and we also have Mercury sextile Jupiter. And here we can see, here's the Sun, trine Pluto. This is actually the Mercury Jupiter sextile. Where is that? Here's Mercury at 142 of Gemini. Here is Jupiter at 142 of Aries. This is actually the second of three. The first one occurred at about 27 degrees of Pisces. It was 27 or 28 degrees of Pisces when Jupiter was still in Pisces and Mercury was in Taurus. Now Mercury has gone into a retrograde phase. It goes back, it makes this sextile to Jupiter, and then there's going to be one more in June. I think it's June 20th, I think is the next sextile. So these sextiles open the lines of communication, okay? These sextiles are part of us talking to one another, listening to one another, talking about it. There's a lot of power here. There's a lot of opportunity along with the Sun trine Pluto creative self-expression. This is very, very powerful, but it can also just be ignored because it sort of sits in the background. So know that even though we have all these challenges that are sort of facing us, you know, we see that the energy is there to overcome a lot of these problems, or to certainly be creative problem solving with many of these problems. So you're going to find this week that, you know, first of all, people are going to be open for solutions. Now, Mercury is retrograde, so we do have to double and triple check everything, right? Of course, but which we should do anyway. But we have the capacity, we have the heart, we have the abilities. We the people. Okay. On May 20th, we have the sun ingress into Gemini. Okay, and here we can see the sun right here. Now, usually when a planet ingresses into the sun, actually ingresses into a sign, I like to see the ruler of that sign and where it is. Well, of course, the ruler of Gemini is Mercury. Yes, Mercury is retrograde in the sign of its rulership, which makes things very difficult for people who are Geminis, unless they happen to have Mercury retrograde. Now they all feel like geniuses. It also affects Virgo, because Virgo is also a Gemini world sign. But we have the first degree of Gemini, a glass bottom boat reveals undersea wonders, the revelation of unconscious energies and submerged psychic structures, along with the ruler of Mercury being the ruler of Gemini, a 2 of Gemini, says Santa Claus furtively filling stockings hanging in front of the fireplace, a rewarded faith in spiritual blessings. So these two sort of energies are hopeful. They're hopeful. Now let's just go to the next day, because the next day we have that conjunction of Mercury and the sun at 1 degree of Gemini. We know what 1 degree of Gemini is. And it says here, a further explanation of this symbol. It says the feeling is one of wonder. I did not know this could exist. How beautiful, or how exciting. A new dimension of reality is perceived by the earnest inquirer. So while we are facing so many challenges and just so much existential angst and this and that, no, in your heart of hearts, that we have the capacity to change things. It starts at home. It starts within us. It starts with us believing in our own value, believing that we don't have to compare ourselves to anybody, looking into your own heart, seeing what is there, letting go of those ways of relating that are toxic to you, move into a more stable future and visualize that future with all your might and all your heart. And we will get there, people. I know it can be very overwhelming, but know that together we can do it. We can do it. It's about overcoming our own worthiness issues to a certain extent. And of course, that Chiron in Aries, am I worth to even breathe air? Is that person, because of their skin, worth to breathe air? Is that person, because of where they live or how poor they are, or whatever, they're my enemy, right? No. We all deserve love. We all deserve opportunity to improve our lives in alignment with the resources that we have. And that's another thing. We really do have to figure out what it is that's essential in our lives and what is not. And unfortunately, I think what a lot of people are going to realize is that food and shelter are probably the 2 most essential things right now. And both of those things are challenging to keep. But we'll figure it out, guys. We can do it together. We can do it isolated and fighting one another. We cannot. So decide. I know what you guys decide, because you watch me. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching me. You'd be watching, I don't know, Steve Bannon or somebody, right? Anywho, I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe. I am starting my Kabbalah class. That class is beginning, I will tell you right now. Hold on one second. This is awful, I think. Hold on. Okay, hold on one second. I'll tell you when that starts. So an introduction to the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life will begin Wednesday, May 18th. And it's 6 consecutive Wednesdays to June 22nd. And it's going to be from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can, join us for the class, but I do send out the recordings. So if you have an issue with that time or that time frame, you can still take the class. It's just that you won't be able to necessarily interact. The beginners class, there is a little less interaction than other classes because there's just so much information to cover. So I know a lot of you have been waiting for this. I apologize for giving you such short notice. I can move it a week forward if I have to, but I would prefer to keep it on the 18th. And that way we sort of wrap it up as the summer begins here in the Northern Hemisphere. So I hope you join me for that. And you can find that on my website, thesiegeoftransformation.com. And under events, under the events page. Okay, guys, take care. Much love, everyone. Hope to see you on Wednesday. Okay, take it easy.